I have here in front of me all three of the new Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless eyeshadow palettes. They came out with 3 new color stories, 3 new colorways, and in this video I'm gonna be swatching them for you. I'm gonna be doing 3 looks, 1 look with each of the palettes, and I'm also gonna be sharing my first impression thoughts, if I think these are worth it, if I think this is the good Makeup Revolution formula, or if it would be better to just skip these. I'm very excited for this, so let's get into it. Alright, so I've never tried any of the eyeshadow palettes from the Forever Flawless line before, so this is a totally new line to me. When I saw that new palettes were released, I was very curious because I have been really enjoying the Icon palettes of My Makeup Revolution. Like, the quality in that is really nice. So I was curious, like, are they continuing on with that quality in these palettes? In this range, we first up have the Forever Flawless Cherry Rebel eyeshadow palette. Just from the website where I ordered these from and from the pictures, I thought this would be like my favorite palette because this has a lot of cool tones with some pops of berry. I thought it was a really fun looking color story. Also, it's gone from really light to really deep. Like, there's a lot of dimension, a lot of different things that you can do with this palette. Like, you can make it more wearable, more soft, but you can also like go into that red cherry like realm. I thought that this looked really interesting. I was first debating only picking up this one, but I thought the other color stories are also really interesting. So we're just doing the full line. We also have the Forever Flawless Astro Nova eyeshadow palette. This one is a little bit more colorful, a little bit more out there. We don't really have neutral shades in here, except for this little like trio that can be a little bit more of like an easy on the go, like quick brown nude look. But we have a lot of kind of like purple in here. We have some greens. It is kind of like a pastel palette in a way, but in a very, very specific way. Like, they really went for this green, pink, kind of murky color story. I really love the pastels we see in here. I usually steer away from the murky tones a bit, but I feel like the combination here is really fun. I'm really loving like the colors that they chose for this palette, and also that they have a more colorful, more out there, a little bit experimental palette in this range. Then the last palette we have is the Temptation palette, and this one is a bit more like warm neutral, but not like super warm. It has a combination of different undertones. It can go a little bit more neutral. We have some warm tones. Once again, we have a light to deep, not as many light shade as in the cherry palette, but we can do something a little bit more contrasty while using some lighter shades as well. I think this is a very interesting range. At this point, I haven't swatched these yet. That I'm gonna do before I share my final thoughts. You know what? Let's get into that first look. The first look I'm gonna do is gonna be with the Forever Flawless Cherry Rebel eyeshadow palette. This is the one I was most excited about. Really loving this color story, and it looks really nice. We have some berry shades, or like cherry shades, and then we have a lot of kind of like cool tone shades. We have a silver. There is so much here that I want to play with that I'm kind of like, what do I do? But I think I really want to try one of the colorful shades, at least like the colorful mattes, because I think it's gonna tell us a lot about the quality of this palette. So I'm gonna start out with the shade Heartthrob, and it's a little powdery in the pan, but it's actually not too bad. I'm already wearing an eye primer, and this is quite like a pinky cherry. Like, it's the most kind of like vibrant fresh cherry. We also have more kind of like muted reds in this palette, and that is actually already looking pretty good. Definitely need some more to kind of like deepen it up, really put down that color to blend it out later. Is it just me, or is that looking pretty good? I haven't swatched any of the palettes yet, and I'm planning to do the swatching after I've done the looks, but before I conclude the video and my first impressions. But that is a really beautiful berry shade. Gonna see if I can blend that inwards a little bit without making that too deep. That is really nice. I am gonna apply some of that shade on my lower lash line as well with a smaller brush and connecting that. Gonna blend the edges a little with a blending brush. Actually, it's not looking too bad. I might blend it a little bit more later, but first we're just gonna continue on with this look. And I think I want to go into the shade called Pink Lemonade. This is a sequin shade. I'm just going to use it as a matte, and I'm going to use that in the crease as well. Okay, that is a pretty powdery shade. Pretty close to my skin tone. For me, this is not doing a lot because it's so close to my skin tone. Like, I can see the color. It is pigmented, but it's just my skin. Just gonna go over the edge of this a little bit with that. This is for me a nice kind of like blending or like transition shade. Okay, I think I'm just gonna apply some shimmers, and I am really interested in this shade called Late Night. It looks very like foiled, and it looks kind of like this bronzy berry color. This is what it looks like. It looks pretty promising. It's quite warm toned, but I think this is gonna be pretty nice. Or I'm gonna swatch shade Riot as well. Okay, that is more nude. I think I want to go more with the red. And I'm just gonna apply it with my finger. That is looking pretty nice. It is just kind of like a shiny, kind of foiled metallic. We do have some other shades in the palette that look a little bit more like sparkly, shimmery. And then there are also some that look a little bit more satin. But that is beautiful. That is blending really nicely into that matte. And it's just pulling it a little bit more like cherry instead of just kind of like fuchsia berry. That is cute. I'm gonna just put a little bit of that nude shade here. That nude shade is also really nice. A similar formula. Like, these are both just kind of like standard shiny metallics. Really cute. I am really liking this so far. I think this looks really promising. I think I want to go into the shade Bubbles, and I'm gonna place that more towards the ooh. That is really soft, really sparkly, really impactful. Okay, I'm gonna place it more towards the inner part, and that is, wow, really impactful. When there's a shimmer like this in a palette that it is just so like glowy and shiny, I feel like I'm usually more okay with having a few satin shades because you can kind of like mix and match with that and use this as a topper. This does emphasize a little bit of texture when you take a lot. Like, I took a lot that first time. Like, this doesn't emphasize texture, but this does a little bit. So keep that in mind. I was just going in, but that's really beautiful. This is really like taking the look to the next level for me. I'm really liking this. And now for the inner corner, I really want to try one of the lighter mattes. And I think I want to go into the shade called Full Moon. And this seems like a very, very, very light, kind of like lemon acidic yellow. But a very light, it has just the slightest hint of a very interesting undertone. So I want to see if I can use that in my inner corner, if it's pigmented enough, because that is looking like really interesting. Like a shade that I haven't really seen before in a palette. It's really different. So I'm taking a pencil brush, and I really hope this is pigmented. It is, it is. That is like a really cool, super, super light yellow, but like really cool tone, not like a cream really. Is really brightening. I can't believe how much I doubted this palette. I still have some trust issues when it comes to Revolution, even though I've tried a lot of products from them this year that I've really enjoyed. It's a bit powdery, but it's also pigmented, and it does give like so much brightness. It's really, really nice. I am loving this look. Okay, for the last step, I am gonna go into shade Unruly, like this chocolatey kind of satiny shade, and I'm gonna use it as my shadow liner because I think the satin is gonna go really well with this look. I just feel like I want to do so many looks with this palette. I really want to like turn this palette inside out and know everything there is to know about it and tell you like, are all the shades this good? We need more information. Also a little bit underneath here, like just what's left on the brush. I don't want that to be too harsh, but it's kind of like closer to the lashes. I want a little bit of dimension. I have said it before and I'll say it again. I love this look. I am just gonna finish this up and then I'll be right back with some thoughts. Okay, why is this one of my favorite looks I've done this year? I didn't think I would love this so much, but I do. I am really into this. I love the blend of the mattes. I love the pigmentation. The shimmers worked really well together. We have those different formulas, so we really have that sparkle and that light in the inner part, but then this is just a beautiful like standard shimmer that blends together really nicely. I just find this such a beautiful look. I don't know when this all happened, but I feel like Makeup Revolution is going in the right direction. Like, I feel like I chose the right year to get into them and try their products, because this is really nice. Of course, I haven't swatched the palette yet. I cannot tell you yet about all of the formulas, but this look is already making it kind of worth it for me. I'm really into it. Like, I feel really beautiful. I feel like it's just so nice. Okay. A very good first impression. Let's get into the second look. Look number 2 is gonna be with the more neutral palette. This is the Forever Flawless Temptation eyeshadow palette. And actually at first thought this was probably gonna be a little warm for me, but it has a lot of kind of like neutralish tones. I think I can make something a little bit more like on the cool toned, neutral to cool side. So that's what we're gonna be trying to do. And I think I wanna first go in with the shade Sandstone. It does look very similar to Desert. Like, I don't know if that's gonna be really different on the eye, but we're gonna start out in crease with Sandstone. And I'm already wearing some eye primer. I am wearing a bit of a skin tint and a little bit of concealer and powder, because honestly, I've been breaking out and it usually doesn't really happen unless I eat chocolate. And I ate chocolate ice cream and I have regrets. Okay, this is pretty pigmented, especially for applying it with such a fluffy brush. This is looking really nice. I really like that. It is still a pretty like warmish shade. It's a little bit of a like clay brown almost. Okay, I think the shade Charmer is gonna be a little bit more cool tone. So I think I'm gonna go into this shade. Like, it's a chocolatey brown, but it almost has something a little purpley to it. So I'm interested to see how this is gonna look. And I'm gonna take a smaller brush and deepening this up. I really like the color of that one. Like, it's a really interesting, a little different undertone. Very pigmented. It creates a lot of depth, which I like. And I'm just taking this first brush and blending over it just with what was left on the brush to just soften the edges a little. I think that's looking pretty good, but I kind of want to go back in with that darker shade, with that Charmer shade, and intensifying it a little bit. And then going back in to blend a little more. Usually I'm too lazy to do it, but we're doing it today. I do feel like it helps the blend of that dark shade a little bit more. Like, I think this is looking better than before. Okay, we have some really interesting looking shimmers in here. Some of them look really like sparkly. I still haven't swatched any of the palettes at this point, but this Storm has kind of like these blue sparkles in it, but the base is a taupe, so that looks really cool. Mirage and Quartz look really kind of like flaky, shimmery. But I kind of want to try one of the more satin shades to see like how they work, because like picking and choosing the shades that I think I will like the best also kind of like skews my whole like view of the palette. I need to try different shades, so I'm gonna go into Temptress, which looks kind of like a cool tone brown, and we're just taking it on a finger. It looks quite nice and pigmented, but it's definitely a satin. I don't mind a satin as long as it's like flattering on the eye and as long as it's pigmented. Like a super dry satin that doesn't have any pigment, like I don't think that's something I can use for anything. That is like quite a nice satin. Like, there's definitely something you can do with satins like this, especially in palettes that have different formulas, because now you can put on a topper, like you can put a topper over it, and that can really add some dimension to this. But honestly, sometimes a satin is just what you want to kind of like mix and match things together. I think you could even like apply this in the crease if you want, because there's no shimmer whatsoever in this shade. This is turning quite smoky, but we're gonna add some shimmers on top, which I think is gonna like bring some light back to the look. I think I'm gonna grab this satin called Romeo, and I'm gonna put that on the lower lash line just to see what that formula does when used kind of as like a matte. Ooh, that is really nice actually. That's a beautiful color. Ooh, that was really beautiful on that lower lash line. Kinda blend it together a little. I think it needs a darker matte in that outer corner to connect. That is beautiful. It's really sticking well to my lower lash line. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit of the shade Dune. It's pretty close to Charmer, but it has less of that kind of like purpley undertone. It's a little bit more of a true chocolate brown. And applying that in the outer part. Trying to connect that a little. I think this is gonna be very cool. All right, what am I gonna do for kind of like a topper shade? I am kind of interested to try the shade Storm, because I'm kind of like, what is this type of formula? I'm just gonna swatch it. Ooh, this is definitely a topper. Like that has kind of a sheer gray base with some blue like shimmers. I'm just gonna apply that here in the middle. Yeah, that is like the most topperish shade I've seen. Like that is on its own, I think it's not gonna be much, but it adds a really nice kind of like gray and blue sparkle on top of that, which does look really nice. It has this really beautiful kind of wet look. It's a really interesting formula. Like you can see it on the finger, like it has that glow, but it's not really like impactful in the pigment. And usually a lot of the toppers that you have nowadays can be used basically on their own. But I think this one I would always layer. On its own it's too subtle. But build up on this satin like this, really pretty. I am gonna go into the shade Mirage, and I'm gonna put that more towards the inner corner. I think that's gonna pull the look a little bit more cool tone. This is very flaky, like I dipped in ever so slightly, and there's already so much like flakiness on my finger. I think this is a type of shade where you have to go in carefully, because otherwise it's gonna look weird and crepey and a little thick. So I'm just taking the tiniest bit and applying that. It's really beautiful. I do really like that addition of more cool tone shades in this palette. It just makes it more versatile, more user-friendly for different undertones. And now I think I'm gonna take a brush and put Quartz in my inner corner. I wanna see if this type of flaky shade also applies with a brush. I think it does. I think that's working. I really love the combination of these tones. Like, this is so nice. This is a really beautiful dimensional shimmer. I really like that. I think for the last step I'm gonna take a little bit of Sultry, this kind of like a reddish brown, and I want to use that as a shadow liner. Don't know how much of it you're really gonna see, but I just want to try it out. Like, that is a subtle difference. Alright, so this is gonna be the eyeshadow look. This is it before mascara. I'm just gonna finish up my makeup and do mascara, and then I'll be back with some thoughts. So this is gonna be the finished look, and I have to say once again, I'm impressed. I'm really liking it. I'm really liking the kind of like mixed metals vibe that we have going on in this palette, like the silvery, the bronze. The only thing I would say is that the dark brown is not perfectly blended on this side, but it could also be me. Like sometimes it's just your eyelids acting up, so I'm not entirely sure if it's me or the eyeshadow. The rest worked really well. I'm really happy with it. I think this looks amazing. I am really happy so far with the quality, but of course keep in mind I haven't tried this range of eyeshadow palettes before, and also I have not swatched these yet, but I am actually like really happy, really impressed. I'm gonna be filming another video in this look, then I'm gonna be taking it off and doing a eye look with the last palette. I'm very excited for that. Listen, Taking your eyeshadow and your mascara off while trying to keep the rest of your makeup intact is not easy. It was a struggle, but this is what we ended up with. It's gonna look better once I do the eye look. Yeah, this is what we got to live with. My eyes are not really liking it as well. I did already apply my eye primer and I'm really thinking, what are we gonna do? Because I kind of want to do a combination of the purples and the greens. We did do kind of like a berry look in the first look, but I kind of want to do, yeah, purple green. Let's do purple green. I am going to go into the shade called Cosmic first in the crease. Like, it's not going to look the same as that first look, I think. This was really the palette that seemed most risky to me, but also most fun. So I'm really hoping like this is gonna be good, because I do love some purples and mints together. I do love kind of like colorful looks that are a little bit more on the pastel side. That is a cute shade, a little powdery in the pan, but often pigmented shades are. Like, it doesn't happen a lot that pigmented shades are not powdery, at least the formulas that I'm trying. Okay, this is a really good start. I do want to deepen this up, and I'm gonna go into that Mothership shade. I think it's really fun that we have this very like space themed palette here. I think is really cute. Gonna grab a smaller brush and that shade Mothership, and we're just gonna deepen that up, see how these work together, what kind of shade we create, because this shade is a little bit more berry, but I think once you start blending that with one of the brighter purples, it just turns probably a little bit more purple. Yeah, I think this is working pretty good. Like, this is looking pretty good. A great start to the look. I really want to go into one of these mints. Like, these mittens look so good. I really want to go into the shade called Space Invader. I really want to see how pigmented that is gonna be. Also has the cutest embossing. Ooh, that is pigmented. That is a pigmented mint shade. Okay, I was definitely most scared of this eyeshadow palette because of the warm greens, because of the kind of like out there color story, but this is looking nice. This is turning out to be really fun. I'm gonna do kind of like a two-tone look with this. I love a shade like this. Also, just to combine with some neutral shades that are also in this palette, which gives you so many options. That is really cute. I think I'm gonna use the shade Mothership on the lower lash line as well, just to see what it does on its own. Yeah, that is sticking well. Okay, that is really cool. I'm really liking where this is going. I wanna grab the shade, what should we do? Do we not have a purple shimmer? We have the shimmer Milky Way, but I don't know if that is what I wanna do. It seems very, yeah, it seems like a really cool tone pink, really icy, something that I would use in my inner corner maybe. Like, this would be really nice in the inner corner. I think I want to go into the shade called Nebula. This is kind of like a bluish green shimmer. Like, that is looking really cool. Kind of like duochrome almost. Like, it has like a deeper base and then it shifts more like a bright sea foam. I'm gonna put that right in the middle here and see if that gives me what I want. I would have loved a kind of like purpley shimmer for sure. Like, it's something that I'm missing. Of course, that's something that can also be fixed. I have a lot of makeup, I can pull it in, but just for like having a complete color story here, that is something that I would have loved. This is a nice kind of like satiny shade. These satins, I do feel like you have to dig in a little bit, but once you get them on the eye, because they are not like super soft in the pan, once you get them on the eye, they do look nice. I do like them. I do feel like it's a little disconnected now. I am gonna take the shade called Meteorite, the brown one. I'm gonna deepen up the outer corner just a little bit with that and try to connect things a little bit more. Just right over here. Like, I still really want the purple on the outside, but I feel like this is kind of like a bridge between the bluish and the purple, hopefully. Hopefully this is gonna work the way I want. I think That is looking good, but it's taken away a little bit of that like fresh purple. Becoming a little bit more like a mysterious purple. But it's blending really nicely together. I do feel like this wasn't needed for this look. Gonna blend a little over the edges. And I feel like that is bringing back the purple a little bit. I do really like how that like blends into each other. It's really cool. Like this palette is really pushing me outside of my comfort zone in like the best way. I'm really loving how this is looking. I just want to add a little bit of that brown. Just the tiniest bit right over here. I really want to try this shade called Astro, this mint. It's a little bit more green than the matte, but I just really want to like try this, swatch this. It's once again a more flaky topper shade that we have in this palette. I just really love combination of different textures. This is one of the most beautiful shimmers I've ever seen. I know that sounds dramatic, but I really love how this is looking and where this is taking my look. That is stunning. It's falling on my face a little bit, but I took a bit too much. I got a little too enthusiastic. This shade, and also with that kind of like blue on the lid, it just brings so much light and dimension to this look. I can tell you one thing, I have never before done a look like this. Like this is really, really different for me. Okay, I really want to try the shade Supernova in the inner core, or am I gonna try Milky Way? I'm gonna try Milky Way, I think, and wrap that around. I just thought that swatch really interestingly and it could be really fun. Like the glow on that, I want to see what it looks like. It's a satin glow, but there's something interesting to it because it becomes kind of like really cool toned icy bluish. Like I really like that actually. Just blend it into that lower lash line. Honestly, this is one of my favorite looks of the year. I am loving this so much. Like it's just inspiring me so much. And I'm happy that I bought this palette. It scared me a little bit because it just got me a little outside of my comfort zone. It made me do a look that I wouldn't have done otherwise. And I'm just in love with this look. Gonna do a little bit of a shadow liner and let's go into this green over here, which is called Enigma. I think you can do so many fun looks with this palette. Like it can go in totally different directions. You can go with those warmer greens as well. Do you remember when I said that I was a little scared that this look was gonna look a little bit like the first look? I don't know what I was thinking. I'm gonna use a little bit of the Cupid's Arrow in mauve in the waterline. And this is gonna be the look without any mascara. I cannot tell you how much I love this. I just think it looks so friggin' cool. I feel so cool. I feel like this is just so nice. I've never done a look like this and I'm just always so happy when a palette inspires me to do a look that I wouldn't have done otherwise. Like that is the whole point of palettes for me, and this is just like bringing all the excitement for makeup back into my heart. Right, I'm gonna do my mascara, change my lip, and then I'll be back with my thoughts for these palettes. So this is gonna be the finished look. This is how it all came out. I also used that shade Milky Way as my highlighter, and I think it's actually really cute. It's a satin shade, but it still has really nice glow to it that I really like. I really love how this came out. I also just swatched these palettes, and I have to say, swatched out, they are kind of like an emotional roller coaster. Like while I was doing this, like some of the shimmers swatched so beautifully. They are so like sparkly and pigmented, and some shimmers or like satins I really had to dig in and they looked kind of like unimpactful in the swatch. I feel like those satin shades for me are not really a deal breaker. It's not something that I really have an issue with because you do have those topper shades, because you do have those options to combine those satin shades with other things to make the look as a whole more impactful. I think they made a conscious decision to also keep the price down a little bit because these are really affordable palettes. Like these have 18 pans, they have quite a sturdy tin packaging, and they do have well thought out themes. I feel like they went with a few of the settings to keep the price as a whole kind of like manageable for them, like to be able to produce it for this price. I think that overall these are really nice quality palettes. I really had a great time with the mattes. Also the pastel shades did work really well, were really pigmented, were not too powdery, and did show up on the eyes. I feel like they really made an impact. I am happy with the looks that I can get out of a palette like this. If you're really like, I don't know what to do with this satin, they are not for me, I would maybe skip them because these all have some satin shades in them. That is just the way it is. I honestly can't really like pick a favorite with these palettes. I feel like they all have a really own identity to them. I do have to say that the cherry palette I really like because it's cool toned and because we have a lot of variation. We have a lot of like impacts and kind of like contrast that we can get here without there being any black or like crazy dark tones. It's more like we have those lighter shades to like balance that out a little bit and not be able to just do mid-tone looks. I really like how we can get kind of like that mixed metal vibe here. I do feel like this is a palette, a type of palette that a lot of people probably already have in their collection. It is more of like a safe, a little bit more of an approachable neutral color story, but I still really liked the look that I got from that. It was like more exciting than I was expecting it to be. And then this one, the Astro Nova, I feel like this didn't swatch the best, but just the pigment of the mattes and then those few really impactful shimmers combined with those satins, I don't know, I just feel like it really works. Like the Nationality shade that I have on my eyes also didn't swatch the best. Like I did have to dig into that a little bit, but you know, once it's on the eye, it does really work with each other. And I do feel like sometimes when you do like a really impactful shimmer kind of like in the outer corner and then one more towards the inner part, they kind of compete with each other, and now you really have this focal point of the look, which I do really like. So all in all, I'm pretty like impressed with these palettes. I'm excited to try them out more. Let me know if you picked these up. Are you planning to? How do you feel about them? Have you tried more of this range? And then I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.